What's up guys, Framinthor here, Captain Negativity with everything that has to do with WoW. And today I want to talk a little bit about how the DragonFlight story can make sense. Okay. Now for me, again, I think it doesn't. I think the story is weak for the expansion. As a standalone story, I think it's fine. But as far as WoW expansions go, the story in my opinion is very weak. Hey, I mean, we're fighting dragons after we killed Death, an old god, and pretty much a world soul. Not, yeah, half-baked world soul, but still world soul. Do I really care about dragons? Do I think they're strong? Fuck no, okay? So, as an expansion story for WoW, knowing everything that I know, the story fucking sucks. But as a standalone, especially if you're a new player that doesn't know anything about the lore, and hopefully you never find out, this story is fine, okay? The whole reclaiming their aspect hood and all that stuff, that is totally fine in my opinion. You know, I have no issues there in that regard. But the only way that I can make this story make sense to me as someone who's played since basically TBC, end of TBC Wrath, is that we had borrowed power since Mists. Because in my opinion, Garrosh, forget Garrosh infused with old gods, Garrosh could probably beat the shit out of some of these dragons. Okay? Probably not, but old god infused Garrosh definitely wouldn't get, like, he would slap these dragons no problem. And the other thing is, like, these guys, so think about this power levels. Old gods controlled the elements gave power to these dragons. So if you think about it, the void is the boss of these dragons, right? So Garrosh was infused with void, while these guys are infused with elements. I'm sorry, he has the upper hand. Okay, how infused and all that stuff, whatever, but, like, you know, to make it simplified. But let's just say even that, okay? Archimond, stronger. What's it called? Wow, forgot his name. Argus, stronger. What do you call it? N'Zoth, stronger. Death itself, Zoval, stronger. Now, if you want to use the comparison, like, well, as far as first bosses go, because you're comparing end game bosses, like, okay, let's go with first bosses. Are you telling me that Vampire Lord, the Nathrius, is not stronger than these guys? Come on. Are you telling me the Gahoon, like a makeshift old god, is not stronger than these guys? Come on. Are you telling me Ellis, what's it called? Who was it? What's his name? Wow, I forgot his name. The first boss of Emerald Nightmare. Sorry, the last boss of Emerald Nightmare. Are you telling me he wasn't stronger? Xavius. Xavius full on void form Xavius, whatever he was at that point. You're telling me he's not stronger than these dragons? In his own domain, by the way. We fought him in his own domain. Right? You're telling me he's not stronger? Come on. Okay, like all these things, like, come on. Like, let's be real here for a second, okay? So yeah, who was before that? I don't remember who the first raid. Oh, are you telling me Ragnaros in Cataclysm is not stronger than these dragons? He literally gave them power. It's not like, technically no, they absorb power, but it's like, let's be real. Ragnaros was definitely stronger in his own realm. We beat him, right? Where he's the strongest, fully awakened Ragnaros, we beat him, and you're telling me these dragons, right? So these are my complaints with the story, the power levels. However, this, like I said, the only way that I can make this make sense for me is, let's assume, okay, we can only assume that these dragons somehow absorbed so much elemental power that they are stronger than the elements themselves. Okay. Right? Or, like, they have control over the elements, thus they would have control over something like Ragnaros because he is an element, right? An elemental lord, but still an element. Okay? So let's just assume that. Now, at most, I would say these dragons are at the power of Deathwing. Okay, let's just go with that. They're the same power level as Deathwing. Ever since Cataclysm, we had borrowed power. So the cape in Mop to do Siege of Orgrimmar, that's borrowed power. So maybe the borrowed power was just that great. Added so much, and I know to some classes like mages and stuff, it added like a lot. So maybe that cape was the reason we were able to beat it. Therefore, without the cape, we are not that much stronger than when we defeat Deathwing. Then in Legion, we had Legion artifacts. So without these legendary lore bomb artifacts, we would not be able to do anything remotely close to fighting the Legion. And without them, we are somewhere around the Deathwing level still. This is Legion. Sorry, I've missed WoD. Thank God, right? I wish Blizzard missed WoD. WoD, we had the legendary ring to defeat Archimonde. We had Azerite powers, the necklace, the essences, the void corruption, the Azerite armor in BFA. We had the Covenant, which is like the abilities are not as powerful, but the Soulbind power boost definitely helped, right? So if like we use those lore, what do you call it, mechanics, or like lore tidbits, right, as in like why we were stronger and were able to defeat those foes, then I can be like, okay, now that we don't have any borrowed power, there's absolutely no other power, and it's just us versus the dragons, I can be like, okay, maybe we ourselves are not that strong. But that's why we have a hard time with these dragons, and they're actually a challenge because we don't have any of these borrowed power. We lost a lot of our power throughout this time. Some people also said it's like, well, it's also been 5 years. Think about this way, in peaceful times, even heroes will be lax and like, you know, gain some fat, like won't train as hard and stuff like that because peaceful times. I don't think that's the case really, but let's just say the borrowed power is really what made us able to defeat those bosses. Now that we don't have any borrowed power, we are so weak in comparison, lore-wise, right? In comparison, lore-wise, we are so weak that we can barely defeat these dragons. This is the only way I can make this make sense, but for me right now, as someone who played for a long time and understands the lore pretty well, I'm sorry, I find this whole lore stuff extremely weak in terms of power level and something I really don't care about, right? I'm not saying the story is bad as a standalone, but as far as like expansions go in comparison to like previous stuff that we have done, I personally can't care too much. But that is the only way I can find the story making sense to me. If this video helped you make sense of the lore, if you're in a similar spot, then, you know, you're welcome. But yeah, and yeah, that's my 2 cents about the lore right now. Leave a comment, do the YouTube stuff, and I'll see you in the next one on my next rant. Peace out.